Let's get physical. It's Jordan here, back in with this month's update on all the physical releases coming to PlayStation and Xbox consoles. As always, this video was researched, written, and edited by my man Tim. It's all down to him, it's just my voice saying his words, okay? Let's see what he's got for us this month. Starfield. Bethesda's long-awaited space RPG finally lands on PlayStation, bringing its usual mix of open-ended exploration, faction quests, and a fair bit of time spent in menus. Reception has been mixed since launch, with praise for its scale and freedom, but just as many pointing out the repetition and slightly dated feel. Post-launch updates have smoothed some of the rougher edges though. The core experience remains much of the same. It arrives here with more curiosity than momentum, but for the right player there's still a lot to get lost in. However, it does appear that this physical release is mostly a download. And it's releasing April the 7th, and my man in Japan, Vei, he's chosen this as his pick of the month. Skautfold Moonless Night, a top-down action RPG marketed as an open-ended Metroidvania set in a grim, vaguely Lovecraftian alternative history Japan in 1900. You'll get stamina-based combat that keeps things measured with a focus on timing and positioning over button mashing. Part of the wider Skautfold series, this one seems to stand on its own pretty well. It's coming April 9th on PlayStation 5 in Europe. The Rogue Prince of Persia, a fast-paced roguelike spin-off of the Prince of Persia series, trading careful platforming for repeated runs, shifting layouts, and a heavier focus on combat. Movement still does a lot of the talking, with acrobatics and chaining attacks carrying the flow. It is a bit of a departure from the usual formula, but an interesting one to say the least, and has been reviewed extremely well on its digital release. Physically, it's coming April 10th on PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2 as a game key. Boo. Mio Memories in Orbit, a sleek sci-fi Metroidvania set inside a vast decaying space vessel with a small robot piecing together what went wrong. Exploring leans heavily on movement and upgrades, with a clean, almost delicate visual style carrying it. Early impressions have been very positive, particularly around the atmosphere and traversal, and actually considering how many Metroidvania games are out there, this may be one to look into. It's releasing April 10th on PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2, and my executive producer, Surfacing for Air, has chosen this as his pick of the month. And if you want it or any of the games in this video and you want to support me and Tim's efforts in producing this video series, then please purchase them via the links down below in the description and pinned comment. Thank you so much. VGP are a really great company with free worldwide shipping on orders over 75 Canadian bucks, like 54 American dollars, not that much. Plus, each week if you buy something via my link, you are put into a draw to have a chance of winning a $10 discount coupon, the winner of which I announce every Monday. Thank you and good luck. Dunjungle, a bright, colourful side-scrolling dungeon crawler-esque title set in a jungle that feels more playful than perilous, with quick runs, simple combat, and a steady stream of upgrades to keep things moving. It's basically Dead Cells, but with monkeys. It's already out in Europe, where it landed quietly, looks easy enough to dip in and out of without demanding too much of your time, and my executive producer Brent McLean has chosen this as his pick of the month. Old School Rally, a stripped-back rally racer with a clear love of the late 90s era, favouring simple handling and clean stages over modern sim detail. This is more about chasing clean runs than wrestling with realism. It is already out in Europe, where it kept its profile quite low. This is for someone who prefers their racing game straightforward and nostalgic. It's releasing on April 10th on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch in North America. Tiny Bookshop, a gentle management sim about running a traveling bookshop, setting up in different towns and matching books to customers. You know the cozy deal, more about mood than challenge, with the soft, cozy presentation carrying it. Very much in the low-stakes comfort game lane, it should appeal if you're after something a bit quiet and undemanding. Incredibly well received, and it's coming April 10th on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. My executive producers Jennifer M. and Dave Huswaite have chosen this as their pick of the month. 3D Minigolf, a straightforward mini-golf package with a mix of themed courses and simple arcade-style controls. More about lining up clean shots than anything too technical. It has been poorly reviewed. Feels like one of those quiet, no-fuss releases that turns up without much fanfare. Perfectly serviceable as long as, expectations stay in check. It's releasing April 10th on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 in Europe. Hood Story, Kaito Yamazaki, a narrative-driven action game set in a stylized modern Japan, following a small-time delinquent pulled into something larger. Combat, exploration, and story choices all play a part, though the focus leans more towards character and tone. It's very short, don't expect a Yakuza-style quality, but a unique title, a quieter release with a very specific flavor. It could land well if the writing holds up. It's releasing on April the 16th on PlayStation 5 in Europe. Pragmata is Capcom's long-anticipated sci-fi action-adventure. It's finally seen the light of day after years in development, putting you in a near-future lunar setting with a mix of third-person action and strategic puzzle-like encounters in combat. You follow spacefarer Hugh and an enigmatic android companion named Diana as they try to survive in a hostile AI-controlled moon base and try to find a way back to Earth. Gameplay centers on a blend of shooting, movement, and a hacking system that temporarily disables enemy armor so you can inflict big damage, with upgrades and tactical choices shaping how you tackle encounters. Recent hands-on impressions highlight this blend as one of the more original elements, though how it sustains itself over a full playthrough remains to be seen. It's been a long road to this point with multiple delays since its 2020 reveal, but the latest previews suggest a visually striking experience that will hopefully live up to the many expectations. And my executive producers, Viz, The Nemo 6, Ghostbune, Instacritic, JCross7776, and Jimmy A. Guerrero, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. It's releasing April 17th on Xbox, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch 2 as a game key. Boo. Marvel Cosmic Invasion, an arcade-style side-scrolling beat-em-up from Tribute Games and .emu. You can pick from around 15 heroes, the usual, like Spider-Man, Wolverine, etc., and mix up teams using a tag system that keeps combat flowing across colorful, pixel-rich stages from New York to the Negative Zone. The campaign and classic arcade modes are short but punchy, with online and local co-op play for up to 4 players, adding a proper social layer to the brawling. I think this will be popular as a physical release for many out there, especially in the US. It's releasing April 17th on Xbox, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2. And my executive producers Punky Dooster and Madhawk110, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. High on Life 2, this comedy FPS returns with bigger worlds, more talking alien guns, and a skateboarding mechanic to speed you through missions. The humor is offbeat and won't appeal to everyone, but it's praised for its zany set pieces. Reviews so far are mixed to positive, praising visuals and creativity while pointing out middling shooting and technical rough spots. But my executive producer Nerdy Sean, he's chosen this as his pick of the month. It's releasing April 20th on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch 2 as a game key. Boo. Dragonkin the Banished, a dark fantasy action RPG in the Diablo mold, built around top-down combat, loot, and buildcraft as you take on increasingly nasty dragon-infused enemies. It has a fairly quiet run so far with mixed reception. There's something here if the systems click with you, but it doesn't do much to stand out. It's releasing April 21st on Xbox and PlayStation 5 in North America. Tides of Tomorrow, a narrative-driven adventure set on a flooded world built around a genuinely unusual idea. Your story is shaped by the choices of other players, with their actions carrying over into your playthrough. You are effectively following in someone else's footsteps, for better or worse. It's been picking up interest for that system alone, with previews highlighting it as the main draw. The question is whether the story around it is strong enough to carry the whole thing. It's releasing April 22nd on Xbox and PlayStation 5. Outbound, a relaxing, open-ended survival game built around a camper van as you travel, gather resources, and gradually turn it into a self-sufficient home on wheels. Crafting and exploration drive the loop here, with a clear focus on atmosphere over pressure. It's releasing on April 23rd on PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2. 9 Souls, a hand-drawn action platformer with a heavy focus on Sekiro-inspired parry-based combat set in a Tao punk world, whatever that is, that blends sci-fi with Eastern Asian mythology. Okay, that's what it is. Tight timing and pattern recognition do most of the work here, with fights built around precision and exploration through world building. Already extremely well received on PC, particularly for its combat and art style, this one arrives with a bit more momentum than most, and my executive producers God of Resin, Firm Returns, and Dane Wilkinson have chosen this as their pick of the month. It's releasing April 24th on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. MotoGP 26, the latest annual entry in the official MotoGP series with updated teams, riders, and tracks for the new season. Still very much on the sim side, built around precision racing and fine control. These tend to land consistently rather than dramatically, and this looks much of the same, one for the dedicated crowd. It's releasing April 29th on Xbox and PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch 2 probably as a game key. Probably boo. Saros is House Marquee's next project, leaning back into sci-fi, this time built around a stranded soldier fighting to survive on a hostile alien world. It keeps the studio's fast, precise combat, but wraps it in a structure focused on repeated runs, shifting encounters and gradual, persistent upgrades. You know how it goes. It's already drawing companions to Returnal, though this looks a bit more grounded in its approach. The real test will be whether it can match that same sense of momentum over time. Sony are obviously betting on it, so it will be curious to see how it's received when it's out, which is the 30th of April on PlayStation 5. Invincible versus a 2D 3v3 tag fighting game based on the Invincible comics, letting players switch between 3 characters mid-match to chain combos and super moves. Combat is fast, flashy, and full of that superhero fighter type energy. It's building interest ahead of launch, especially amongst fans of the comic and tag fighters. Could land well if it delivers, but yeah, could also be easily forgotten in about a week as well, who knows. But my executive producer, Mr. Awesome, has chosen this as his pick of the month, and that is on April the 30th on Xbox and PlayStation 5. Winx Club The Magic is back, a colorful action adventure aimed at younger players, letting you control the Winx fairies through a story-driven mission, puzzles, and light combat. Movement and powers are simple, keeping things accessible rather than challenging. And my executive producers, D's Nuts and Azareth, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. They're rebelling even in this series. The game's out April 30th on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. The Last Case of John Morley, a narrative-driven detective game set in the 1940s, following John Morley, a detective on his final case as he pieces together a string of mysterious deaths. Investigation, dialogue, and environmental puzzles drive the story, with a focus on atmosphere and period detail. It is a quiet release that's received a lot of flack for using AI art, which is never the best look, but perhaps a game that could appeal to someone who enjoys slow-burning mysteries in a noir world. 30th of April on PlayStation 5 in Europe. Detective Collection Volume 2, a compilation of detective and mystery games bringing together a handful of story-driven titles in one package. Each entry leans on investigation, puzzle solving, and narrative choices rather than action, and the titles included are Scene Crime, Rainy Night, and The Test. An East collection aimed at fans of the genre, but perhaps, keep your expectations in check for this one. 30th of April on PlayStation 5 in Europe. A quick mention to these delayed releases from last month or a few months before: Mythwrecked Ambrosia Island, Frank and Drake, Ereban Shadow Legacy, Styx Blades of Greed, Rushing Beat X Return of Brawl Brothers. Alright, let's jump into Limited Run. What pre-orders are ending for them this month? Annie Last Hope pre-orders end on the 5th of April. This HD voxel top-down twin-stick shooter places you in the 1990s after invasion of weird creatures who are stripping away everything. Fight through waves of enemies with an array of weapons and upgrades. Fast-paced combat and dodging takes center stage, with survival depending on reflexes and careful positioning. 9th Dawn Remake pre-orders end on the 5th of April, a top-down action RPG remake of a title with a very small but dedicated cult following, keeping the open-world exploration and hack-and-slash combat intact while updating the visuals and interface for more modern consoles. Character progression, loot, and varied enemies drive the gameplay loop, and this one should land well with fans of classic, old-school RPGs. Darwin's Paradox pre-orders end on the 12th of April, a quirky action-adventure platformer about an octopus dragged from his ocean home into a sprawling industrial junkyard and mysterious factory. You use swimming, camouflage, and ink spray to navigate hazards, solve puzzles, and unravel a hidden conspiracy. Don't you hate when that happens? The campaign mixes classic platforming with puzzle-focused traversal and light stealth, wrapped up in a cinematic, animated movie style. Slightly surreal narrative, and there's even some unexpected Metal Gear Solid cameos thrown in for good measure, because it is published by Konami. Slime Heroes pre-orders end on the 12th of April, a colorful, fast-paced 3D action adventure where you control a heroic slime through enemy-filled levels using bouncing, stretching, and goo-based attacks to clear hazards and solve light puzzles. Not really much reaction to its digital release, but it looks to, appeal to anyone who enjoys low-budget, whimsical platforming with a cheeky charm. Knowledge or No Lady pre-orders for this end on the 12th of April, One for the gooners out there. You play as the sole male student at a woman's university in a first-person perspective girlfriend simulator. This has over 1,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, some of which are very funny to read. So, you know, if you want to roleplay having a harem of girls on your PlayStation 5, this is a must for you. YIIK, a postmodern RPG, pre-orders end on the 19th of April, a surreal RPG that leans hard into its brand of humor with turn-based battles and strange encounters. Choices, exploration, and deliberate weirdness drive the experience more than traditional mechanics. This one is going to live or die by whether you find the humor if you or not, but it has a small but vocal fan base, and my executive producer OGCIB has chosen this as his pick of the month. Is this game trying to kill me? Pre-orders end on the 19th of April, a first-person horror puzzle game that is set in a remote cabin where you are forced to play a strange computer game in exchange for your freedom. The twist is that what happens in the game starts bleeding into the real world, with traps and choices carrying consequences both ways. It's already been very well received on PC for that idea alone. Short, clever, and good puzzles that stick. Front Mission 3 Remake, pre-orders end on the 19th of April, a full remake of the classic PS1 tactical RPG, bringing its turn-based mech battles and branching story paths to modern platforms with updated visuals. You're still customizing wanzas, picking your targets carefully, and watching limbs get blown off piece by piece. Mechanical limbs, of course. These remakes have been landing steadily rather than spectacularly, and there's a lot of contention with some questionable AI usage and the removal of the original visual charm. But my executive producers, John Jamin and Dave Horwath, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Alright, the imports Play Asia territory. If you want to import any of these games, you can do so via the Play Asia links and get 5% off if you click my link and use the code Jordan2026. Incantation, a first-person horror game based on the Taiwanese film, focusing heavily on atmosphere, ritual, and slow-building dread rather than outright action. Exploration and puzzle solving carry most of it, with the threat creeping in around the edges. A niche one, but the film has a following, should land well if it captures that same uneasy tone. And it is a Play Asia exclusive, and they often do quite fun games. It's releasing April the 8th. Kejora, a side-scrolling adventure with a hand-drawn look. Follow a young girl through a quiet, slightly melancholic world. You have light puzzles and exploration. They drive this game with more focus on mood and storytelling than challenge. A low-key release, but one that stands out on style alone. It could be a pleasant surprise. My executive producer, Cartoon Soren, he's chosen this as his pick of the month. It's releasing April the 16th. Gigasword, a puzzle platformer built around one very large sword used to weigh down switches, block hazards, and occasionally clear a path forward. Movement is slow and deliberate, with most of the challenge coming from how and where you place it, giving that Metroidvania vibe. It's releasing April 23rd. Kingdom's Return, Time-Eating Fruit and the Ancient Monster, a side-scrolling action adventure with that charming integrate style. Following a young hero dealing with a very strange problem involving a time-altering fruit and an ancient tree, combat, light platforming, and story scenes all feed into an interesting-looking title with town-building mechanics. One worth looking into for sure if you enjoy Integrate's usual efforts, and my executive producer, Miami Sunrise, has chosen this as his pick of the month. It's releasing April 23rd. Front Mission 3 Remake, we've already covered this one in the limited run section, but if you're keen on playing that earlier on the PlayStation 5, you don't want to pre-order from limited run and wait, well, import the Japanese version. My executive producer, Adamantium, it's his pick of the month, April 23rd. Here are some Japanese releases that have already released in the West, and here are some Japanese releases that do not have English. Alright, the community spotlight for my executive producers over on Patreon. Sora Cat sent in this photo showing off a couple of recent Tales of remasters. I know some people thought that Berseria was slightly pointless on PlayStation 5, but hey, that's not going to stop Bandai from releasing every Tales of game, especially the easy ports on modern consoles. Personally, I would like some of the early entries or the Japanese-only ones. Miami Sunrise sent in this photo with a couple of them being previously timed exclusives on Nintendo Switch and Switch 2. I do wonder how these later versions fare, since both Konami Date and Room Factory have had like zero fanfare with the PlayStation 5 releases, yet they were extremely popular on the Switch. JCross7776 sent in this photo with a colourful looking selection of Shantae on PlayStation 5. I'm gonna guess the next Shantae will have a green cover. We need a green Shantae. Instacritic sent in this photo picking, I think, another edition of Romancing Saga Minstrel Song. I think he showed off 2 Switch physicals in Monday's video. The man is on a mission. Firm Return sent in this photo, which I think might belong in a Let's Get Retro video series if I ever manage to get that going. Probably not because of my work schedule, but who doesn't love a good Mass Effect? Bring it to Switch 2, you cowards. They, my man in Japan, sent in this photo picking up the earlier release of R-Type Tactics 1 and 2. I wonder why they delayed it to the summer in the West, but who cares? This Japanese release does play in English if you want it early. Jennifer M sent in this photo showing off some Final Fantasy love. It's kind of weird that even as a supposed big fan of the Final Fantasy series, I've not played 16 and I was never even hyped up about it. I just can't put my finger on why. D's Nuts showed off D's Games. Senses Midnight was reprinted at Play Asia, which was nice because on eBay that bad boy was going for like hundreds of dollars for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I think $30 is far more reasonable and it is still available now. And that is it for this episode. Thank you to Tim for making it happen. Thank you to my executive producers over on Patreon for also making it happen. Go check out some other videos that I've got for you and please have a fantastic day. Take care.